what role does boredom, being bored, play in innovating in music, in the written stories, YouTube videos, whatever it is you're making.
Now, define what you mean when you say boredom, because I think of more of like I think boredom is important, but it feels like that's like a bit, because in my head I'm like almost ambiguity, like lack of specificity when you're approaching these things, and you're like you said, it's not a exact replica, or the idea of an exact replica. It is just you're taking this thing, you're filtering it through your perspective, and then you're spitting it back out.
Yeah.
And rather than well, I saw it, I watched a video on it, and then
not that this happened, but like I had thoughts of Jackson Pollock, and not saying that boredom helped him find
he's a CIA psyop, bro.
His style of painting. But what if you're just in the studio and you're like, I'm fucking bored?
Yeah.
What's that look like? I don't know. I just felt like I just got bored and had an impulse.
Threw some paint on there.
Threw some paint. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Yeah.
And a whole movement, like think of these artistic movements from.
I do think it's funny watching anything pre-internet, and you can kind of see people doing this thing, which I would love to do, where it's just like, man, there's nothing else going on. Feels like it's been 8 hours. It's been 1.
Yeah.
Because time moves slower when you're not plugged in, and then you're just like, fuck it, I'm gonna read that book.
Yeah.
Fuck it, I'm gonna write.
Right. What can I do to kickstart something?
Yeah, you just sit down and start.
Experience.
Because if you were to go off the grid for a little bit and have no electricity.
Yeah.
And so I say no electricity because like that eliminates movies, that eliminates computer,
right.
A lot of stuff. Like eventually you're just gonna be like, all right, fuck, what's that book about? Yeah. Like you're just gonna jump into it, or you're gonna be like, I guess I could write something right now.
Yeah.
And it almost, like boredom, I hate to like pull this into the war of art thing, but it's like boredom is almost a really good counterpoint to resistance.
Yeah.
Like if you're just bored, I feel like people are more afraid of being bored than of the resistance to starting something. But
there's something
like there's not a lot of things that are that I would rank above that, like resistance to starting something.
Yeah,
it's a pretty powerful force.
Yeah,
whatever that is. But I think boredom might be more powerful. So it's like just being bored and being like, oh, fuck, let's see what this is about.
Because there's something in boredom that is, I don't want to be bored. Where there's something in resistance, which is
boredom is like
I don't want to do this work.
Yeah, boredom is like scary. Like in a way, like boredom is like, I'm bored and I have to spend complete time with myself.
Yeah.
Which, that's not terrible. But if you've been plugged in constantly for years, it's going to feel pretty terrible.
Yeah.
You're going to be going through one, screen withdrawals, like real, actual dopamine withdrawals.
Yes.
And you're not gonna. It's not gonna feel good. And then also just like, I like noise. I even have like the CRT. I just leave it on the screensaver most of the time because I like the noise that just buzzing.
Yeah. Yep, I do too.
And I don't like silence.
Yep,
silence is terrifying. Like I rather.
Well, I'll give you an example of boredom that I've experienced as a dad. I have had both my kids home for 3 days this week, and they're together, and they'll come down and they'll be like, "Dad, we're bored," and I'm like, "We're not turning on the TV." They don't have phones and iPads that they have access to. They certainly get their share of screen time on the television, watching shows together during breakfast or whatever their little schedule is. But they'll come down, they'll say they're bored, and then I'll hear them upstairs. Within 10 minutes, some big new thing is going on. They've got the whole room tore apart. They're building something. They're playing with their Barbies or whatever they're playing with. and they've created a whole world. They're using their imagination. They've unboarded themselves.
Yeah.
And I really love it because I know what's going to happen because it happens to me.
Yeah. It's a good lesson
I
too.
get myself out of feeling bored sometimes, and I'll be like,
It's just so
you know
easy
what?
for
I could
us.
use a shelf right. You know, I could use a little shelf right there for my cameras, and I go out in the garage and I build a shelf.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I did that little camera shelf in my studio. I'm like, I mean, obviously a shelf isn't a super complex thing, but
Yeah.
most people buy 2 brackets and a piece of wood, right? I'm like, well, how could I make this just out of wood? And, you know, I cut the little triangle pieces and I screwed them in. Well, it's going to bow in the middle. I better reinforce it. You're also doing a little bit of problem solving. It's just like incredibly stimulating. Then you get to stand back and go, oh, you know, I made
cool.
this thing.
Yeah.
It's a little shitty,
Yeah.
but it works.
I spent a whole
painted
day
it.
making these
Spent a whole
guys.
day. Yeah.
Been here for
So
years. All of these guys.
I just think I was listening to, of course, you know, we're of course fully sponsored by Rick Rubin and Tetragrammaton, but I was listening to the Laird Hamilton one, and he's like, you know how we came up with like 3 fin surfboards?
Yeah.
We were bored.
Yeah.
We had 1 fin surfboards. And we're like, what if you put 3 on?
What if we put? Yeah.
And we're not thinking of the physics and how these fins are going to act in the water. They put the 3 on there, and they completely revolutionized surfing.
Yeah.
And he's like, we literally were bored.
It had been a golden afternoon, and I remember having the familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the summer.